Welcome to the 8th video part of the XC, and this one's divided into two sections. One is about parts and the other is a little bit more on wiring and what we need to do to make that work in the GXL. Now this chapter is going to concentrate more on the bodywork of the car, but I have quite a lot to do on the holidays and I had some free time, so I thought I'd cover these bits here. Well, I've sort of welded this patch in here. I haven't smoothed it off yet. I'm on a little bit of a curve here with the noise I've been making, but you can download these sort of guide templates, if you know what I mean, off, I think this came from the forum or something. And so we'll just cut it out and then we can sort of drape it over and see exactly where to cut the proper shape. So I'll drape this over. And that looks like, that's a bit bent at the back, but it gives me a pretty good idea. If that works. And they're not all that accurate anyway. Let it go across like that. There we go. Well, I mentioned a couple of videos ago that I got given these taillights and they're a little bit past it. They're all sort of broken away. There's bits out of them everywhere. This one was a real mess. And that really isn't usable, so that can be binned. I'm not too fussed about that. But on this one, whoa, the inner lens, or the deflector if you like to call it, I don't know what you call these, is in really good nick. There's nothing wrong with that, so that is usable. And on both of them, this garnish is too. Now, someone's just painted the whole thing black, and I'm inclined to sort of want to take all that off and just have the black in the centre, but there's no dents there. It's in really, really good condition, so that is very usable, along with the lenses. Now, there's the reverse light lens. That could have a crack, is it? I don't know. No, that's not a crack, it's just dirt. So that's going to come up, as will this, which is an original Ford part. That's in really good condition, and so is this one here. Now, what that means is that I can go and get a toothbrush. I'm not going to show it in the video because it's boring, but I'll get a toothbrush and I'll give these a good soapy wash, and then we'll have a look at how we can replenish the lens. So those three there are good. That one's good. The garnish is good. On this one here, the reverse light lens is okay, but the indicator lens is shot and so is the brake light lens. So we can't use those, but we can use that and that garnish as well, because that looks fairly good. That looks good. So what's considered junk is quite salvageable. Oh, it wasn't too bad either. Oh, that's broken too. Oh, well, never mind. So all three of these lenses are stuffed. So I need... That technically is still roadworthy because it's not going to let moisture in, but it's cracked, so I don't really want it. And of course this one here, that's gone. So the only thing we got out of that one, again, is that sort of frame or garnish, if you like. And this sort of deflector, that's still in good condition, so that's alright, that's a win. That's cool. They were given to me, so it's not all bad news. These gaskets, I'm not sure if you can buy new ones for XCs. But with that, take it up the wrong way. With these, I can use these as a template to make new ones if I need to. Well, I will need new ones, but there you go. I can use those. I certainly wouldn't put them back on the car, but they might serve well as templates. Here are our lenses, and you can see they're sort of all scratched up. They're nice and pretty on the inside, but on the outside, I don't know if you can see that, yeah. They're all sort of scratched over the years as the car's been washed and driven around and they've come into contact with bits and pieces. They've sort of got all scratched and a bit dull. So this is the easiest trick in the book, and it's one that you've probably all seen. This is a bit of 2000 wet and dry. and a bucket of water, and I'm just going round and literally colour sanding it. What I'll do then is I'll just give it a light buff and see how it comes out. Now, these taillights, I'm not going to be able to use them, but there are some spare parts I can use. I'll go and buy some other taillights, and I've then got a bounty of parts I can choose from to make the best of the ones that that I want. So just go a little bit more. We don't have to do too much. So I'll just see how that looks. It should be nice and evenly flat, which it is. So that's cool. Alright, so here's the buff. Direction of rotation is written at the top, so it's going to go this way. So I've just got to make sure it doesn't catch anything when I use it. I haven't got the handle on because it was in its box, so I'm just going to run along and buff it. Just start with a bit of water on there and a bit of cutters. Hopefully this works. I'll just wipe off the excess polish and that sort of thing. Probably could have done it a bit longer in the edges, but hopefully you can see the difference between the part I haven't done yet and the bit up here I have. There's a little bit of buffing compound in where it says forward and top right hand. That's easy, toothbrush, bit of water, that'll come out. But it's a very, very cheap and easy way to resurrect an old lens and make it look brand new. For lenses that are faded, you can repaint the inside of them. Now this isn't the right stuff, that's Tamiya model body paint, if you know what I mean. And the Tamiya radio control, this is for a radio controlled car, and they come with a clear polycarbonate body, and you can just sort of dust this over on the inside. I used that for some indicators once, a long time ago. It's a very watery type of paint, and you have to do it in a few sort of very light coats, but you can resurrect a very faded lens too using this sort of stuff. You can get the proper stuff, but that's just what I use. But we're not going to need to use it on our XC. That looks absolutely lovely. Could probably do it a little bit more on the edge. I might give it a bit more there. Now I've often wondered what that bracket was, and the previous owners tried to drill it, and they've lifted up one corner of it, and I was contacted by a man called Tony. Thanks very much, Tony, for letting me know about this. That is actually the spare wheel bracket for a car with a long range tank. So I'm going to repair that and leave it there. The tanks have got two fuel tanks. They're both not long range tanks, but of course if one comes up I'll certainly grab it. I've also got verification letters from Ford on their way for this car and the XW, and I've also got one for the XD. The XD one won't really tell me anything I don't already know because I was there when Dad purchased it. But this car, I'm guessing, I know it was a 4.9 manual. I think it had air conditioning, power windows. They're the two options I think it had, but obviously a long range tank's in there as well. So we'll just wait and see what the letter says. Now I have a lovely friend, Adam Bryan, who's a chaplain at our school, and he is instrumental with a lot of the programs and the good things that go on there. And one of the things he runs are car shows, and classic car shows, and of course he produced all these old brochures, original brochures, which I purchased just by making a donation to his church. And this is the XD, and I remember this one very, very well, reading over and over it again when I was young. And these are all original, they're not reprints. They're really, really good. And of course they changed them a little bit when the alloy head engine came out. And they're really, they're a really, really good read. I remember those Volante wheels. I wanted a set of those, but never found them anyway. Here's a lovely Holden one, and absolutely wonderful. The price, the quoted price, £1,200, £1,288, and these are original. I know I said that, but I mean they're absolutely gorgeous. But one of the ones that's particularly significant to me is a ZG, Hillman Hillman Arrow. Mum had one of them years ago before she bought the Tirana, and I cried when we traded that in back in 1973 because it had a folding stool in the boot. And we were at the General Motors dealer, it was Patterson's in Ringwood, and they went and got the folding stool out and put it in the Tirana, which she picked it up. This is an original XW Courtney and Patterson brochure, and it was quite interesting. And in sort of determining what this car came with when it was new, I think the only option it had, as far as I'm aware, a 3.6 litre, a 221, where standard the Falcon 500 a 3.1 litre, and I've never seen one of them, a 188, and manual. But as far as I'm aware, the only options this car had was the 221 and the column ornament. But the rest of it, I think, was pretty much, look, Falcon GT. I think the rest of it's pretty much, yeah, standard. So I'm not expecting huge option list with this car anyway. Didn't even have disc brakes at the front. Isn't that a good score? Lovely. More tea. I'll put these away now. Well, here's the dash frame that I was given with the car, and it looks absolutely terrible. I think this is from the same car the heater box came from. Now, all the frame looks all surface rusted and everything. I've got other frame bits that were sort of thrown in the car when I bought it, but this one's been cut in a few areas. I'll just run around the other side. It's been cut all through there, and it's got broken bits and pieces on it, like these areas here. And frankly, I don't really want to use it. Now I'm just going to turn it around. Now, I originally planned to cull this and use the one out of the Fairlane, the donor car that I've just bought, but apparently, according to Tony, thanks again Tony, they're different in this area here because the Fairlane has a foot operated handbrake, and this of course has that umbrella style one. And because this dash was originally out of a 6-cylinder car, that's sort of been cut out. I think that's for the choke that you pull out. And so I don't need that, but I do need this bit here. Now, whoever had the Fairlane had a tape deck in it, and that's been taken by the fellow that's got it now. And I will use that cubby sort of area here, but I'm still thinking I might take the dash out of the Fairlane, leave it in one piece with a glove box and the instrument cluster, everything in it, so it's got rigidity, because these have a way, the plastics in these are very brittle, and of course the more you take out, the more inclined they are to crack. And of course it's got those ears broken off down there, and it's the same on the other side there. And so this is a mess, and I don't think I'm going to use it, but it does worry me a little bit, this handbrake setup here. So I'm going to have to figure that bit out. And from the look of it, it's not going to be that straightforward. It looks like it's going to have to be sort of cut down here and on that side and attached. And I'm not really sure how I'm going to do that, but I need to see the Fairlane one first. Right, we got a phone call from the tow truck driver. He's just leaving Pascoe Vale now. Pascoe Vale is about 15 minutes further from Langwarrin to what we are here. So we'll go and meet him down there and give him the money we owe him. Jason's not there at the moment. It's a situation where I had nowhere to put it, so he's offered to let me use it, keep it there, and I just said to him, well, I'll take what I want, you can keep the rest of the car. So hopefully he finds that satisfactory. He seems to. He's pretty happy to get it. He's in two minds whether or not to restore it, actually. He's like me, he's got a few cars and he just wants to have the choice. $590, and I sort of calculated tentatively, taking about $2,500 worth of parts off, so it reduces my parts bill significantly. Well, here she is, all delivered safe and sound. I'll just go through all this crap and see if I can keep. There's a windscreen holding on. Hang on to all that, and I'll just go through everything and decide what I want to keep and what I don't want to keep. Give the rest to Jason. So he's going to be home in a few minutes. And he's sort of half tempted to do it up, he reckons. But we'll see. See what he thinks. And spewing, the guy took the disc brakes off the back, but what do you do? It's all good. Well, start pulling them apart. This is interesting actually. ZHs have a brace there. XC hasn't got that. The bloody flies are terrible today too. Oh, there he goes. Whoa, fast bunny. Well, the light's terrible out here, but I've got a few parts. We'll bring them in and have a look at what we've got. Just got back from Jason's and taken the dash out of the Fairlane, and you can see, well, you probably can't in this, to be honest with you, but it is the same frame. I've just got to turn it over and have a look at the where the handbrake mounts, but the frame itself's the same. And I wanted to take it out with the loom, and don't forget these looms just unplug from the sides and the centre, and you can just take the whole thing out together and it leaves the loom all attached. I did take a couple of zip ties off to get at a couple of things, but this car had factory 4-speaker stereo, and of course we haven't cut the looms, they're just in the car. I'll show you those soon, and that's for an electric antenna too. So air conditioning, of course, all the I don't know where they're under here, air conditioning connectors and power windows and all sorts of things. They're the power window ones I was talking about before, and of course your rear looms down there somewhere. So this has all sorts of things in it, even the mount for the ashtray, which I didn't have. All sorts of stuff. Now these air conditioned cars have a vacuum operated climate control, where these ones, the standard ones, are in fact cable operated. So we got that, got the other steering column, and I just want to check that against the one I put together in a couple of videos ago, just to see how it is. This had never been touched. All those plugs are absolutely immaculate, so I'm sort of thinking of going down this road and just cleaning up the bottom there. So I got that spare wheel cover and a few other bits and pieces, some windscreen moulds. My wife's back now. Dogleg moulds. These are Fairlane ones, so they won't fit a Falcon, but if worse comes to worse I can cut them and make them fit. I will look for some of the right type though. There's another window regulator there. I've still got to go back and get some more parts. Electric window thing. Dog started barking. That is the earth lead for the rear demister, which I didn't have, and I saw whereabouts it was connected. Real inertia seatbelts for the rear, and rear seatbelt female receptacles there, which have got the original stickers on. They look in very good condition. That's the engine bay wiring loom, and this is a late 302. This car was first registered in 1979, so it has an electronic ignition, which I thought only the 351s had, but the 302s did too. Bonnet cable, speedo cable, all in good condition. Nice chrome ashtray. That's the cowl front of the steering column, and that's the factory wiring loom for the 4-speaker stereo that I was talking about. I've never seen one, and I actually took a lot of care not to damage it as I took it out. The box, which covers up my modified floor. So quite a few parts there, even one of these for the spare wheel. And I mean, people are asking $45, $50 just for those on eBay, which is a complete rip-off. So that's some of the parts I got today. Oh, also these things here. They're Fairlane ones, so they're not really right for a GXL, but at the end of the day, they're in good condition. I can sort of wet sand them and buff them and make them look nice. And so I'm fairly happy. Wife is rolling her eyes. Also got this parcel tray now. It doesn't look particularly clean, but this will clean up very, very well. It's got all the factory slats in it. It's got the insulation underneath and the little slots for the rear inertia belts. That's a find. You don't see them like this very often. That's in very, very good condition. So I can clean that off, just paint it satin black again and put these grills back on, and it's going to look really, really good. Also this garnish that goes across the back. Now that's a bit of a fail. It doesn't fit a Falcon, so I'll take that back. Jason's quite happy with the ZH. He wants to restore it, or at least look for another one similar, so he can have that back. But I just sort of took everything I could at the time. There's very little time really to see if I can salvage for this car, but I've done alright today, but there's still a fair bit to get. Also this map light, and I've got one of those in the XD, and apparently the Holden ones are the same as the Ford ones. I just wanted to have a look and see how that all worked, and that of course is the boot light as well, the little boot light lead. So it's about 3 major looms in these cars and about 14 sub looms. These are some power window looms. That's a front one there, and there's a rear one somewhere. It might be in the back of the Commodore still, I'm not sure. Let's go and have a look. So we're all good. Look at this handbrake mount down here. That's the umbrella type one, and the Fairlane uses a sort of a release with a foot brake, but it turns out that it really looks quite similar. It's just got this bracket here bolted up to where the original handbrake goes, so I might just take that off and have a closer look. So it looks to me, I'll keep these bolts here because they're probably right for the handbrake, but it looks to me like I might have dodged the ball, because that looks very similar. In fact, it's the same. So that's cool. I can use that without modifying it. So although I'm not surprised, I'm quite pleased that a ZH Fairlane Marquis dash is going to fit into this car. It just means the frame's the same, but it just means the instrument binnacle and the glove box need to be changed. But aside from that, the switches are in the same place and everything looks really, really good. You can see there it's done 467,000 Ks this car, so that doesn't matter, that's all coming out and we can use it. One thing that is a bit of a concern, if you look at the loom on the Fairlane, it is a bit different. So if I go to pin 18, it looks like a double earth of some description. Pin 18 on the Falcon one looks like the tack feed. And the wires are different colours, so I need to look really closely at that, because if I plug that into a GXL dash, there's a good chance I'll burn it out. So that might require a little bit further investigation. But aside from that, really happy. So I have a few things to consider in terms of this car I'm restoring at the moment. But I did get my 3 verification letters from Ford back, and the XD, of course, was no surprise because I was there when Dad bought it, but they've put the colour down as marine blue, which is pay code Q, which should be nutmeg, and the only other option I'd forgotten about was tinted band laminated windshield. I didn't know about that, and intermittent screen wipers. That was no surprise. The XW came from Bankstown in New South Wales, and of course the only option it had was seat belts, which is said were mandatory, so I just had them in the front, which is no big deal, but the rest of it I already knew about as well. But this XC, this is a bit of a hamburger with a lot, this car. And it was a 4.9 litre manual, which I knew about. It's sweet cream, which I knew about. The trim code, they've got a saddle, which was okay, so that's not right. But the options are seat belts, which are mandatory of course, air conditioning, which I thought, power windows, long range fuel tank, dual exhaust, class 1 towing pack. And it was sold out of Witcherproof in Victoria, which is up well past Bendigo, so it looks like I might be putting air conditioning back in this car, which I wasn't planning on doing because I want to keep it sort of semi-original, even though the colour's going to be different. It wouldn't be good if it was produced with all these specifications and didn't have them sort of now. So the ZH has an integrated air conditioner in it, so I might put that in. I didn't want to put air conditioning in it, but seeing it's supposed to have it, maybe I will. So that's pretty good. It's nice to get these sorts of things, and it sort of, I don't know, quantifies your car and what you're doing in a way, I suppose, when you've got some sort of documentation from when it was new. This is a ZF or ZG Fairlane one. This is a really good one. And these are all, I think it's these old 70s brochures. I mean, look at the camera they're pretending to use. It looks like Steve McQueen. He's got hair everywhere. 351 car. It's a K code car. Wouldn't it be nice and green? But look at the power windows. They're gorgeous, these things. I'll always hang on to these. There you go with the sunroof. You never see this sort of stuff now. It's really good. Oh, vehicle code sheet, XB Falcon and ZG Fairlane. It's all original. This is all effective from February 15, 1974. That's very thin paper too. They're original copies, if there's such a thing. Oh wow. Option codes. Huh, how about that? 2-door hardtop, 65, so they're your body numbers. And they're your option codes. Wow. I never even knew about this. 10 is the sunroof. Protection pack number 4. Driving lights, 56. I never even saw that. HD battery, code 13. How about that? Forward disc brakes, code 53. Power steering, code 6. Wow. That is cool. Thanks, Adam. You're a legend. Did you like that warning? Now, the reason I say that, if you're not interested in wiring, turn the video off now. If you want to know how I've changed this cluster wiring to suit a Fairmont GXL, because it is different from a Fairlane, then keep watching. Right, so I've got a couple of wiring discrepancies between the ZH Fairlane loom and of course the XC loom here. Now I want to use the ZH loom because it caters for power windows, power seats, air conditioning, all this sort of stuff, yeah? And although these are wired completely differently, these cluster connectors, everything else is the same. So your block connectors are wired the same. The ZH has two big power feeds in it, which the Falcon doesn't, but that'll be for those accessories I mentioned before. All your other plugs and so forth are wired the same. Now, what I did was I wrote down all the pinouts. There's 18 pinouts on the ZH and the XC instrument cluster plug. Now Ford have made it very easy by numbering each pin. That makes it easy straight off the bat. So instantaneously this is very, very workable. Now I've listed them here, and then I've looked on the XC wiring diagram as to what each of those wires does. Now I'm assuming, and assumptions are dangerous with wiring, but I am assuming that the ZH colour coding is the same. I've ordered an online CD of the ZH manual, $7.50 or something, and all I want to see is whether the wiring does the same thing, if you know what I mean. Each colour does the same thing. I reckon it will, because each of the other plugs is consistent. It's just this one that's different. Now, if you were to plug that into a GXL dash, you're at big risk of blowing the thing up. But there are things like, for example, pin 1's a left-hand turn signal, pin 1 on the XC is an earth. So straight away you put your indicator on, you're going to blow a fuse. And things like that. The right indicator, for example, what's that? Is number 17. On the Fairlane, it's number, or on the XC, sorry, it's the temperature gauge. So if you were to put your right indicator on, your temperature gauge is going to go bang, 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 all this sort of stuff. And of course, the alternator warning light on the Fairlane is the feed that controls all your backlight illumination. So you turn your ignition on and all your instrument lights will come on. So we can't leave it like that. It's actually uncool to leave it like that. But if you want to withdraw these conductors, put your hand around one. Now there's a little tab on the bottom of each one here, and you want to push that down, and then the conductor will withdraw. Every now and then you might have to press down there to withdraw it. Okay, so we'll try with this little blue and red one. Push the tab there down, you can hear it click, and withdraw it like that. That makes it a bit easier to see. And to put them in, they just plug in and lock down. Whoops. Just like that. So I'm going to go round and undo these. We've got to be very careful we don't damage them. Okay. That's the part there that contacts the circuit board on the back of the dash. These little plastic tabs down here, wherever it is down there. And so it's actually really quite an easy thing to do. But before we put any power in, I'm just going to have to push that in a bit there. That's going to bend if I'm not careful. Before we put any power into this, I'm going to power up the looms without the instruments connected, and just check each one with a multimeter or a test light, or both, so that I know without any shadow of doubt when I put that cluster in, I'm not going to damage anything. Now obviously we want to check the plugs are exactly the same. They're longer at one side on these little tabs here than the other, and we also want to just check out that the numbers are exactly the same. So it's 10 through 18 that side, and of course 1 through 9 with a little guide there as well. So we know that it's the same plug, and it does the same thing. Now obviously any wiring like this you do at your own risk. If you copy what I've done and you blow yourself up, or blow your dash up I should say, I'm not responsible, okay? So this is new to me, so I'm just going to go through, and so I've got two earths. I've got pin 1 and pin 8. So pin 1 is an earth here, so I can just plug that in. It's there to stay, and pin 8 is as well. So this is different, and this is why I need to check it, because they're piggybacked off here. These ones are wired separately, so I need to find where they go just by going through the loom. So this is just tentative. This one here might need to be cut off. I don't know, but I'm not going to cut anything yet. So pin 2 is instrument panel amps, which is that one. So that's pin 2. Isn't this fun? So we just go around and we plug them in against that mat. And where is it? Pin 4 with that one. And they're very easy to get in and out without damaging them, so you can sort of chop and change. So we've now got a couple of wires left over. We've got another earth left over. We've also got this here, which I thought that was a fuse, but I think it's a diode. That's for the lamps on light. We'll just unravel that and have a little look in here. And that should be a diode, not a fuse. And it's a diode. Whoops. The little stripe at the end means the power can get that way, but not back. Think of it like a door with a handle on one side. It can only go through one side, not the other. So I've got these left over. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to power up this loom, go around here with a meter. Some of the wires are slightly different colour, and there's not much difference between grey and pale blue, but this is a pale blue one here. When you see them next to each other, you can see there's a bit of a difference, but it is confusing, and because there's so much at stake, you know, I just want to make sure I get it absolutely right. So we'll go and do that now. But that's basically in. I do, pardon me, have to run the tack feed, which I said was to pin 18. Rightio, so I've got these looms all sitting up. I haven't got the key out here yet for the ignition switch. I've got that plugged in. I haven't got the battery hooked up. I've just got the front engine bay loom, if you like, plugged into the interior loom. This is an XC Falcon 500 standard loom. Now, I look at this and the arrogant side of me says this is just easy. There's nothing hard about it at all. But the problem with it is, if you get one thing wrong, you stand to do a lot of damage, particularly to that lovely instrument cluster. And that's the thing that worries me more than anything else. But what we can do is we can check continuity. And so we turn our meter onto the speaker bit. We get a nice little beep, so we know. And I'm just going to hook that up to the earth there. So I know, can we see the instrument cluster one there? Yeah, we can. I know that if I hit these earths, straight away I know those two blacks are earths. They say they're earths, but I want to see it for myself. Now, I haven't got any of the other switches or anything connected, so I shouldn't hear a peep out of anything that isn't black. Good. So we know that that earth is functional and that one's functional there. Right, so the next thing would be now to plug some power into it and see if we can get anything happening. So all the blacks are working. There we go. This is all good. That's black, but I think that one, that's it too. Yeah, it's all good. Yep, that's all really, really good. That's positive. Interior light one doesn't, but that's not supposed to. That's black. That's cool. That's excellent. Alright then, so now we'll put a bit of power in. Right, this is fairly dodgy. I've only got vice clips. These little alligator clips won't go around the battery post, so I'm just going to hook that there, and now I've put 12 volts straight down into our fusible link. So I should now be able to find with the test light. It just lights up when you make a circuit. I should now be able to trace where that goes. So the first port of call, of course, is the ignition switch. Okay, let's have a look down here. There we go. So we've got power coming in, but of course there's only going to be a limited amount of power coming out because the switch is not. So I'll go and get the keys and I'll turn the ignition switch on. Just out of interest's sake, I'm just going to run across these again. I'm looking for any live power, and I want to check it against that sheet of paper. That's cool, there's nothing there. Check it against that sheet of paper so I know without any doubt that everything's working properly. Right, well, I've changed over the steering column for the one that came out of the Fairmont, and I'm looking. You can use a meter for this by just following around looking for power, but with the switch off I know I've got power coming in, but there's nothing coming out, which is cool. But if I turn that switch on, I should start seeing power in some of these. So there's one there. So that one is pin 5. So straight away I know by my sheet that that's the warning lamp feed. So that's cool. We keep going around. I just want to make sure I don't blow this thing up. Rightio. Pin 16. Warning lamp positive. Yes, it's supposed to be there. Okay, so there's 2 positives there which we need to know about. We can also plug switches in and check if our wipers are working and all that sort of stuff, but I'm pretty confident about that. You can just see if your power feed's providing power by just running around there. There we go there. That's a big purple one. And that would be, which is this? Heated rear window switch. There we go. Now that won't liven up until I put a headlight switch in, and that should live up. So we can go around and check the wiring like that. So we can go around now and just check the other circuits. We know we've got 2 positive feeds coming out of that connector, and as long as they're pinned in the right location, we stand little chance of damaging our nice new jigsaw dash. So I'm just checking for continuity now. So of course the pale blue ones, the instrument panel lights, I've got hooked up to the one where the heated, where the climate control globe is, and I can just check. And I know that works. I've got the right power there and there as well. So that's pin 2 and pin 9. I'm on the diagram, instrument panel lamps, instrument panel lamps. So that's all good. So this is making perfect sense. Now the next thing to do, after I've checked all these circuits, and I'll go around in a similar way and check the others, things like, what's the little light, what's 17? Is the temperature gauge. So if I connect on the engine bay loom where the temperature sender is, there should be continuity there, it should beep again. So I can go around and check all those circuits, and once I'm convinced that I understand it, I know that that's right and I haven't touched it. What's quite interesting is the brown wire is missing out of the other plug, so it goes to the headlight switch. It's supposed to be the park lamp feed. So if I just plug that into there and go here, where is it? Okay, I've got continuity. That brown one comes straight from the headlight switch. So I'm going to go and have a look on the other one. And this one doesn't have a brown wire, but I can see the brown wire exactly the same spot on the headlight switch there. And what I didn't notice is it comes into the back of this diode, but I'm not getting anything. And don't forget, a diode's going to stop any positive charge going that way. Maybe if I open it up. There we go. So, worst comes to worst, I can use that in place of the brown one, just put a normal fuse in there. Next one, alternator warning lamp, grey and red, which is that little guy there. Yeah, someone's put another cable on it. Yeah, that works. So we'll just put a tick next to each one as I check it. Yes, I've checked. And then when I go and do the fair lane, I'm going to tick it all again. So anything without 2 ticks on it, I know is dubious. Right hand turn signal. Alright, yellow and light green is fuel gauge, and that is going to be on the rear loom. Where the hell's that? Is that it there? Oh, light green. Which one of these ones? There it is. Yep, that works. Cool. Another tick. Please excuse me for getting excited, but I've gone around and I've found on the starter, I've put the test light in there, I haven't got anything, and I've gone to try and start it, not getting a sausage. So I've gone back and I've traced it all, and what's this one here? When I hit that, it runs. Can we see the test light down there? Yeah. When we do that, it works, but then it doesn't get to that wire there, and the reason is, of course, this is a 302 auto loom. So I put it in here, and I already knew this. These need to be bridged. They're for the reverse lights. These two need to be bridged because that stops it starting out of park and neutral. But what I did find, and I haven't tried this yet, I think this is the proper manual loom. So that goes off to your reverse light switch on your single rail. This should plug in straight to there and bridge those two out. Which I think it doesn't. I think these are the wrong way around. Oh no, we'll try it. I haven't tried this. I just found it now. So if I plug those in there, now I should get power here Sorry if this is boring the crap out of you, but oh yes, so that means, and I didn't know about this, I don't know where this came from, that's the proper one for a manual transmission. So that I didn't know that. I thought the autos were a totally different loom, but they're not. It's the same loom, just with that on to make it suit a manual. How cool is that? Beauty. We are rocking on fire. Right, so what I'm going to do now is get the Fairlane one. Each one of these has a tick next to it, and just make sure I'm getting the same results as that. Well, I now have the Fairlane dash sort of sat up here on the bench, and it's time to do a little bit of testing with that. And of course the first thing I've done is I've got the earth, the dash earth all hooked up to the meter, and we can go around and check the pin outs for the earth, which are pin 1, which is that one, and pin 8. And that's good. There's only 2 earth points on this one. Let's go and check the others. Which means, because we're short on a couple of connectors, which means I can take that off. So that'll come in handy. So I'm just going to go through. So we've got the earth, so I've got 2 ticks there, 2 ticks there. So I'll just go around and check all these other circuits first. And the ones that worry me actually, the ones that are live. So I'll check that first. I'll just make sure the live feeds are the same. Okay, we've got power there. Is that ignition off or on? I can't tell. Okay, so that's off there. We've also got to make sure when we do this, we have a cup of tea. Okay, so we're looking for live feeds. There shouldn't be anything there with the ignition off. And that's cool, and yep, we're all good. So if we turn the ignition on, okay, like that, we should have one there which is 16. I've put an asterisk so that I know that the only 2 live ones with the ignition on are pin 5 and pin 16. And so I've got 16 live. I'll just check the others to make sure they're dead. So 16 is live, and of course pin 5 as well. Pin 8's live. Why the hell is that live? Why is pin 8 live? 1's live too. What's going on there? I found something that concerns me a little bit, and that's that we're getting power through something that's in earth. And of course what's happening in that case, we check those earths and our earthing against here, is that it's getting a feed through a switch. So the positive's going into one of the switches, and then it's going through and then coming out the other side. So the best way to do that is just to undo some of the switches here, because you're just checking the wiring, you're not checking any of the components themselves. So it turns out it was back feeding through this relay. I'm not sure what that relay is for. I can investigate that later, but now by doing this I can see that I've got power in the right spool. Wrong one. I can see that I've got power in the right place there, and also pin 16, which is there. But of course the earths now aren't showing any power, and that was only because the relay is not earth. Electricity wants to find its own or at least path of resistance, so it just goes through whatever it can to get back to ground. And of course it was going through that relay, so I've got that sorted now. Now one thing that worried me of course was this fuse, and I've got that has continuity with the headlight switch, but I know that I can take that out like that. That's a little diode, and I think the diode is soldered into the back of the XC circuit board where this one doesn't have one, which is why it's got an inline one. And I can just substitute that. I've just got a 15 amp fuse. I can substitute that, put that in, and I know when I run the meter between there and there, it's going to have continuity. So I can zip that up again. And that was the brown one, which went to, where the hell is it? Brown, brown, brown. Pin number 3. And that's that one there. So that just lives in there. And I can just double check that. Pin 3, wherever it is, that one there. I can double check that it's got continuity against the headlight switch, and we're all good. So we can keep that because it looks quite weird and pretty cool. I'll just put that in my globe cabinet, have more tea, and we're good to go. Yum! So we're missing 2 interior or instrument illumination feeds. One's from pin 9 and pin 13. I've done the ultimate sin and cut it out of here, and I've left that and labelled it pin 9 and 13, so I will dig up another one from somewhere. There's an XB one's probably the same, those types of terminals. and I'll put it in and sort of fix that because I don't like cutting looms like that. And I can just add it to this one here. So there's 9, 13's over this side. There we go. And then I can just solder that into pin 2, which is there. We'll solder that up. That looks alright. Just make sure it's gone all the way around, which it has. That's cool. So I've also where is it? Soldered this up. This is the black wire left over, and I've put a green wire on, and that of course is going to go down pin 18, which is our tack feed, which is meant to be pink. And I've got the wrong colour, but one sometimes has to say to oneself, who gives a rat's bottom? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to find down here, hang on, just take those off. Get off. These wires are all pretty much the same. There's 1 or 2 that aren't, and one of them's that thing there. Now I'm not sure, actually that's white with pink, that's one we need. I'm not sure. There might be 1 of 2 of these that go down to that electronic ignition, which is the factory forward one. That's the one that 351 VH used in the Series 2 or XC.5 or whatever 302s did, which I didn't know about, but anyway. I'm not going to use that, so I might be able to cut one out and then put the tack into this connector here, so it's all sort of pluggable like it's supposed to be. Otherwise I've got to run another wire straight through, which I don't really want to do. I want to use wiring that's sort of there, so I don't have to cut it up. But anyway, at the end of the day, that's it. That's all good. So aside from that tack feed, this is all tested out well. So now I've got every confidence when I plug that into my GXL dash, I'm not going to have a problem. So I'll just tape all this up and make it look nice. This had a just a bit of tape around the top there, around that fuse holder. So I'll just do the same thing, just like I found it before. Oh, hang on a sec, come back. I like cutting electrical tape, I don't like tearing it. So there she is, all done for now. I've got loads and loads of wire there for the tack feed. It's far too long, but that way I can just cut it to length and I'm not just sort of guessing it and wasting a whole lot of wire. I'll work out what to do with that later. I'd like to route it through the plug properly and have it all sort of wrapped in. That can come later. And I've noticed down here, where is it there? That insulation's all rubbed out, so I'll take that off and check it. But for now, none of that matters. That can all wait. It can be put away. I know that it all works properly. So that now is set up for an XC dash, and it looks tidy. It almost would pass as completely factory. But we can leave it and rest assured that that's not going to blow anything up. So there you go. Fairlane wiring in a GXL dash. This is actually good Fairlane wiring because it's got much heavier conductors in the plugs that I have noticed over and above the standard Falcon one, just because there's more accessories there, and so it's less likely that there's going to be any voltage drops or anything like that. It's much better loom. So thanks for watching that. I hope it didn't put you to sleep. So that's all we've got time for with this chapter. I have a whole lot of other parts I've got to go and get off the Fairlane. I have my work cut out. The next episode won't be for a little while now. I've got to get stuck into the body, and I've got a few things to do around the house, and of course a few things to do with the children and all that sort of stuff. So that's it for this one. The next one should be in about a month's time. So thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you later. Ta-da!